Welcome to the Wednesday, May 12th, 2021 Planning Board meeting for the town of Raymond. The Planning Board will come to order. The board does have a quorum. I will now take roll call, starting with Ed.
Kranich here.
Greg Foster.
Kevin Woodbury.
And
Croft.
this is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are presented. Please notify the chair if you're unable to see or hear. The board works from a published agenda and we'll be considering tonight's items in the following order. We have first order of business is the introduction of our new planning board administrative assistant. Then a public hearing for the Patricia Avenue subdivision, which is also a preliminary review, I believe. And after that, we've got planner communications and adjournment. So I guess the first up is welcome, Sandy.
Thank you. This is not something totally new to me. Just I have to learn your ordinances. I was with Casco for 15 years. And before that, when I lived in New Jersey, I worked for lawyers for 20 years.
So Alex can vouch for you then?
Yeah. I think Jim might as well, but I'm not sure.
Well, welcome.
He is.
Yes.
All right.
As long as you don't call me Doug, Sandy, we'll be fine.
Yeah, no, don't push me to that and we'll be fine. I don't want to relive that. Thank you.
Hey.
So it looks like nobody is here for the public hearing, so I'll just open the public hearing officially and then close the public hearing. So our public hearing is done and we'll go right into the preliminary review for the Patricia Avenue subdivision. Jim, if you could take us through some of this, not all of us got your memo, Jim, so if you could be a little bit more detailed.
Okay. Thank you, board members. Tonight we have an application for, actually it's an amended subdivision plan for RN Willie and Sons off of Patricia Ave. It includes about 29 acres. This came to the board back a few years ago and they carved, I believe, 3 or 4 lots off Patricia Ave and left the remainder of what was once a pit on the Raymond side. This is located right on the Raymond-Wyndham town line. RN Willie still has an active pit on the Wyndham side of this, but on the Raymond side, they had discussed way back then about coming in with kind of a hybrid open space conventional subdivision. Now they've come back. Last month they came in with kind of the same concept, maybe looking at some duplexes. They're coming back now. We have a little bit different configuration of the plan, but same number of lots. I believe we're looking at 9 lots on this property right now. This would be accessed off of Patricia Ave, coming in off of the last property they have on the northeast side of their property. The board at the last meeting had asked that we look at continuation of the right-of-way, which they have shown going through. This would actually wind up back on Pipeline Road opposite of Viola Ave. As I said, this was once a gravel pit, so there are some slope issues and maybe even some groundwater issues where it's been excavated in the past. The property behind on the western side is a resource kind of protected area, significant wetland. When they came through in, I think it was 2017, maybe 18, Dustin, you have to remind me on that one. They did avoid some of the wetlands there and put in some open space areas. They're going to continue with that in this development, but there is still a large area reserved in there for open space, which is all wet, standing water. So that's part of the concerns we have with these lots going through the preliminary checklist. Was the fact that these are 20,000 square foot lots. Board had asked way back when if we could possibly bring in public water due to the economic impacts. They decided that they don't want to do that. So these will be on private wells and septic systems. One of the concerns we have is given the size of the lots of 20,000 square feet, And with some of these having stormwater provisions, this is putting a lot in a sardine can shape kind of configuration here. So we will be requesting, or we suggested the board request the hydrogeologic studies because of the nitrates and impacts on wells and the close proximity of the two. They seem to meet the 100-foot separation, but this is a gravel pit. Those plumes may be a little bit more extended than normal due to the porosity of the sands out there. That said, they have shown us a road, dead-end road with a hammerhead. We will have to discuss about these. Will need sprinklers since they are not on a hydrant system. So all the buildings in the single family will need sprinkler systems. There are some more comments that I can go through in a little bit later, but I think for now, what we should do is let Dustin finish off any presentation he wants to make, and then we can come back and get into the actual punch list.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Dustin.
All right, thank you. If you'd like, if I can get screen sharing permissions, I can kind of put something up here if you'd like, just to kind of walk through as I'm talking.
Sure. Let's see. Mary's working on it right now.
Dustin, can't you just click the share screen and she can grant you access?
I think so. I keep clicking it every few seconds just to see
Oh,
if
okay.
it comes through.
She should see a pop-up somewhere on the side.
There we go. Just figure, just in case somebody's watching from home,
Yep,
they'd be able to
perfect.
see what's going on here. Since the last time we were in front of the board, we have gone back and made some, not major adjustments, but some kind of tweaks to this plan that we thought would help some of the issues that we had brought up at the last meeting, and I'm kind of cleaning the project up a little bit. So when we were last in front of the board, we had some relatively narrow lots down to 75 feet wide, which is what the minimum requirement is for these clustered lots in the ordinance. What we did is we went back and actually made the road a bit longer and spread these lots out a little bit and made them about 110 feet wide, which makes a big difference compared to the 75 feet when we're trying to get the wells and septics on these properties. So we think that was a helpful improvement to the project. The other thing that we did, we previously had kind of a combination of clustered and conventional lots that had some interesting configurations through those wet areas. And the reason for doing that was to try and potentially accommodate some land area for duplexes on some of those lots. We've since gone back and just simplified the project so that each of these lots is now a clustered lot with that wet area in the back, pretty much completely contained in the open space now. So the way I understand the ordinance is that these would all be now just single family lots, and that we wouldn't be looking at doing duplexes on any of the lots as proposed. The general layout orientation of the road is similar to
everyone's favorite.
proposed previously. The other thing that we did is we kind of stretched out the stormwater management ponds on the rear side of these lots. I think we had some discussion at the last meeting about just the general layout and configuration of these two stormwater filter basins that we had on the rear of the properties. They kind of went up and took up more of the land area close to the homes, which really restricted the buildable land spot in each of those lots, and also just created some concern about just access and things like that. So what we've done is made them more linear and kind of stretched them out over the backs of the lots to just create some more buildable area on each of those lots. We've also, we've engineered those ponds as well as the one that'll be built adjacent to Patricia Avenue, which takes the runoff from the first, probably 300 feet or so of the road coming in. We do have some grading that needs to be done on the uphill lots, as Jim had indicated in his memo. We're certainly willing to provide full grading plans for each of those lots to show how those building windows would intended to be completed, and it would just show the material that will be coming out of those lots there. The ones on the downhill side are a little more conventional type layouts, a little easier to develop, and we're keeping closer to the natural grades. We certainly understand the concern about nitrates. Certainly willing to, we'll have a nitrate hydrogeologic analysis completed for each of the septic systems, just to show that we're protecting the groundwater quality. So certainly happy to do that, as well as the septic designs for each of the lots. We have had the soils looked at in a kind of a mass analysis in this area, where there's 9 lots in a relatively confined space. We did have just kind of the whole area looked at. There doesn't appear to be restrictions for wastewater in the areas that we're proposing, but we will document all of that in our application when we come back to the board with formal test pit analyses for each of these lots, as well as the hydrogeologic analysis for the leach fields. We are in the process of working with the Maine DEP on the approval of both the stormwater management design as well as the site disturbance that's within 75 feet of that large wetland of special significance that runs in the middle of the site. We have our pre-submission meeting with the DEP tomorrow. So we felt this was a good timely meeting to be able to check back in with the planning board about these modifications and preliminary plans that we've laid out, so that we'd be able to incorporate any comments or questions that you have and be able to incorporate those into our application that we'll be making to the Maine DEP following our meeting tomorrow. There was some questions just about retainage of drainage easements, just because this site does receive some runoff from some uphill areas, and we think that was a good observation, and certainly willing to incorporate those into the design. We've done an overall watershed analysis. We'll try to identify the points where water is going to be coming down through the site from some offsite areas, and to the extent we can reserve some drainage easements so that it doesn't become an issue once these lots start to get sold. We'll certainly incorporate those into the plans as well, just for some good future planning. For fire protection, we're agreeable to installing sprinkler systems in all these new proposed homes. We will sign and designate the hammerhead turnaround area as a fire lane so that it's not used for parking. We've received the information regarding just the request for turning templates and things to make sure that the hammerhead can accommodate the fire apparatus. So we'll certainly provide that information as well with our plan submission that we make next. See, we have, as Jim has indicated, we did We've continued to show this future road connection as to how it would extend down through and connect into Pipeline Road potentially in the future. This existing portion here is currently utilized as essentially a shared driveway for the 2 residential lots on either side. It's also it's a gated access that comes into the pit area that accesses that Wyndham pit that's owned by the applicant in a separate deed. So that curb cut area is already fairly established. Not proposing any other activities that would prohibit any type of a future road connection. And we've just kind of shown that area on the plan so that it's clear going forward that, you know, to keep in mind that this is the corridor that we've been anticipating that a future road connection could go through and connect back into Pipeline in the future as part of maybe another phase of development. We will need to incorporate and prepare road maintenance agreements for the roadway and as well as maintenance of the stormwater facilities and management of the open space area. Where we've designed the road so that it could be a public road in the future. It's designed to the minor road standards with 20 feet of pavement and 5 feet shoulders on either side. So we wanted to design and construct the road so that it could be eligible for future acceptance, with the understanding that it would likely only be accepted if it were extended in the future to make the connection through the pipeline. But we didn't want to build a lesser road and then have issues going forward if the road were to be extended. We wanted to build it out to that public standard, even though we understand that it would be maintained as a private road as currently designed. So we'll provide that documentation for the management of the common facilities and maintenance of the road and stormwater facilities as part of our final plan application to the board. I think, you know, again, the purpose of our application here today was certainly to get any additional feedback, if there was any from the public, and also to kind of touch base back in with the board, understanding that we do have some more information to provide you, that this was a good point to, as we submit our plans to the DEP, we just felt it was good to come back and go over the plan here one more time, hear any concerns and kind of reactions to the adjustments that we've made, and just to hear if there's any additional considerations other than what Jim has put in his memo and that we talked about here so far that we should consider, so that when we come back, the board has all the information it needs to proceed with a decision. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the chair, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Dustin. I think we'll start with Mike. He's traveling and not able to be with us tonight, but he did send in a couple of questions for you, Dustin. The first one being is lots 4 and 5 seem to be less than half an acre. So they need to be enlarged from 0.47 to 5.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the standard is 80,000, which would be is 40,000. So I don't know what the breakdown is in square feet, but I'm assuming that they probably have it right around 40,000. Is that correct, Dustin?
It's actually 20,000.
20,000. Sorry.
20,000, half right.
Yeah, so it's actually just under a half acre. So 20,000 square feet is the minimum lot size, which is just under a half of an acre.
So 0.47 is it?
0.46 is 20,000 square feet.
Okay. And then another question is, Mike's got a question on the amount of open space. He believes the open space square footage must equal or exceed 3.74 acres.
Okay, I can I believe what we've done is we've basically looked at the land area that's occupying the lots and the road, and then the leftover land is made up in open space. But I can certainly double check those numbers.
Okay,
Yeah, because you've got 15.7 reserved for future development, but I don't know if any of that, I mean, a chunk of that is probably going to be open space because, as you can see, it's a lot of it's wetlands. So I don't know if you want to incorporate any of that, Dustin, into that open space.
Yep. Yeah, we certainly have plenty of additional land that we could add into the open space areas. So as Jim's indicated, a lot of this area in through here. So, but I'll go through and double check those numbers.
okay, thank you, Dustin. And Dustin, while we're on that open space area, you know, considering that open space area is so close to those backyards, and also it's all wetlands, I'm wondering, like, if like the Cumberland Conservation Commission or one of those guys has signs that we could post there, posting it as wetlands, so it doesn't get incorporated, go into the backyard.
Yeah, and I think we're probably going to want to take it even one step further and actually delineate the buffer areas that are going to be required around the wetland. So rather than post it right at the edge of the wetland, when we go through our DEP permitting, once they've approved a development area adjacent to those wetlands, it'll be between 25 and 75 feet after we go through their permitting process. So I think Jim had brought it up in his memo, and we think it'd be a good idea to go out and actually put in capped rebars that kind of identify the limit of disturbance areas around that wetland. And we can certainly put up some signs as well, because the limits of disturbance are even going to be further beyond the wetlands than just right at the lot lines.
Yeah, Rob, if you look at that, you've obviously got a pretty good ridge of land between those two sectors of wetlands, but because of the setbacks from the significant wetlands, it almost makes those undevelopable. So I would almost engage that majority, you see he's got that small area there that says area for development, but everything in that dashed line to the future right-of-way line is developable, but everything to the top of the page is pretty much undevelopable to the far end of the property line because of the setbacks and restrictions of wetlands. So I think even though they may not have included as open space, the land's unusable, so there is a huge chunk of land there that could be dedicated to open space or conservation easement or whatever they decide to do.
And then, not really for Dustin, but Jim or Alex, do we need to inform Wyndham that, in fact, that since it's on the town line? I know we had to do that for a project on 302.
It may be beneficial to just inform them. I know they gave us a courtesy primarily because I'm not sure, because we're accessing through Raymond and the development is not going into Wyndham, but it may be just a courtesy to inform them of the development adjacent to their town line. I know when we looked at the other side of the pit, Ron, or there was an interest in maybe a solar farm on the Wyndham side, but that would have had to access through Raymond. So again, we got a courtesy invite to see what was going on and the impacts. I do think it makes some sense just to inform them of the activity, but also they won't have any say in it because
right.
I think is a common courtesy with the town. It may be beneficial just to inform them of what's going on. And, you know, there are some, well, I think are there some abutters in Wyndham that may be impacted, or is that still Ron's property? No, I guess there's one or two.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, this is Shizig up here, and Valent and Dodge over here. So this is Wyndham property that would be an abutter. So they'd get notified through the, so we could, when we do the public notices, maybe we could just send one out to the town of Wyndham as well, just to let them, even though they're not a landowner that's in a butter, we can just notify them as well, just so that they're
Perfect.
And when you do the DEP notifications, Dustin, will those abutters be notified as well?
They will, yep. We would not put a public inspection copy in like Wyndham Town Hall. That would be in Raymond.
Right.
But you know, again, we
I
can
think you can notice though, it will say it's available in the town offices of Raymond. So if somebody from Wyndham wants to see it, they can go to the town of Raymond or pull it up on a website at DEP or something.
Okay. Wayne, I know you had a fire memo. Are you okay with what where it stands now?
The only remaining question I had for Dustin was the outside electrical disconnects on the dwellings.
Yep. Yeah, we can make that a condition of approval just so that it's, make sure that it's picked up during the building permit process.
Right.
We will also need to have the name of this connector, I guess I'll call it, approved by the E911. I think that's Kayla and the fire department, I think, that coordinate that. So we will need a name for that to make sure it passes all the musters of common names and it's exclusive. And I know Wayne gave you some information on the radiuses. A lot of that information is going to be, we hope, passed at the town meeting coming up here in June. So I think it'd be to your benefit to incorporate that now, because your final approval obviously won't happen before that.
Yep.
Jim, wouldn't the extension be the same name as the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things I we can get into, we get into a little bit more of the technical design is, I think too, I understand during construction, Ron may want to utilize the pit to build pieces of the road, but I think upon the road completion, we're going to want some kind of barrier across that so people do not try to cut through that as a shortcut. I think you can put some large stones or something like that in there far enough away so you can plow and push stone, but we don't want motor vehicles, public motor vehicles coming down and going through this and getting into the pit. And I don't think Ron probably wants that either. So I do think at the end of this, we're going to want some kind of barrier there for motor vehicles. If people want to walk through there and walk down to Viola, I guess that's something you'll have to figure out if you want to put that in the homeowners, that they have the right to cross through there. Because I do know that that's still an active pit, right, to an extent.
Yeah, and what we would probably do is kind of like what you see, we would put a couple of the those frost posts with the hooks on the top and run a cable with a sleeve over it so that it could be removed if somebody needed to, access through it, but that it would be not passable on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think about that, I don't know if you even want the pedestrians going through there until the fact that he's done with the pit, because I don't know if we want pedestrians crossing through, and there'll be dump trucks and loaders and things like that through there.
Right.
There are some other technical details, and I don't know, Bob, how you want to go through it. I guess there's some other board members. Let's go through their comments first.
So from the board, is there anybody that has any questions or comments?
Okay.
Greg, you're okay? Kevin?
I'm okay.
Kyle? Kyle, you still there?
He got comfortable and fell asleep.
Ed?
He finally got some sleep because it was quiet.
Let's see.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
It was a while ago, but when we did the site walk, I remember that where the road came out to Patricia Avenue, there was some issue with the right of way and the property lines. And I think we were told that you had to do a land swap or something. Has that been addressed?
So, yeah, so what we're showing here is the road going through what is going to be a triangular easement on the neighbor's property here. So as part of our, final plan, we'll show you the easement language that's going to convey that triangle of land. So yeah, we have enough road frontage to bring the road out, but it's just it's not in a great spot. So we propose to move it over so that it hits right on the corner, so that you've got decent sight distance and also avoid the utility pole that's right there. So it's in the optimum location the way we're showing it, and it will require an easement over that abutting property, which we will provide.
Okay. One other question I had on sheet 6 of 8 between lots 2 and 3. At the end of the drainage easement, it looks like there's a outlet of some kind, or the symbol is that correct, or is it just a swale that goes down there?
Get it up here on the screen. So we've got these two swales here and here, which are going to take runoff from the road culverts. and direct it down towards the filter basins. So these are swales that run basically right on the property lines in between some of the home lots.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. It just looked like there was a symbol for outlet or a head wall or something at between the two wastewater disposal fields.
Justin, while we're on that stormwater component there, I noticed you got, you know, 3 septic systems that are in close proximity. 2 of them are kind of tickling a small patch of wetlands there, so I'm not sure where the soils will be or whether that'll be on a fill situation or whether those will have to be tweaked to get out of those wetland areas. But my other concern is, maybe I didn't mention in the memo, is how do we get access to these stormwater areas? They're behind these buildings. I don't see any location where we could get equipment or the home association could get down in there to maintain those.
Yep. So I think the access is going to have to be down off the end of the road here. So we can include some additional easements along this part of the land here, so that we can come right down off the end of this road and then basically travel. Vehicles can, for maintenance and stuff, can come along these berm areas if they needed to get in and clean out the ponds. But yeah, the access would come off the end of the road.
So we may have to extend that stormwater treatment easement maybe to the end of lot 5, just to give them full
Yep.
access or some kind of vehicular access over lot 5. And that's kind of all contingent upon how you deal with DP. The other thing too with that is, you know this as well as I do, the DP will be looking for some test pits in those treatment areas, and knowing that your water table is probably around 279, 280 seasonally, maybe, you know, that might be a little bit of a challenge, but you know, that's a little bit more down the design road with the stormwater.
Yep.
Dustin, was the change in plans from a duplex to single family, was that the developer that wanted to change those, or was it driven by our ordinances?
We wanted to keep the flexibility, but based on just kind of the strange configuration of the lots that would have resulted from trying to keep 40,000 square feet of contiguous land, it just seemed like it just was creating not the best project. So it really was just the ordinances and not being able to have a duplex on a 20,000 square foot lot. So that's why we've got them all, rather than the mix of conventional and clustered lots, we just went with all clustered lots, just to keep it simple.
Mr. Chair, too, I think the other thing with these lots too, I know they're 20,000, but you know, there's a fair amount of topography running through all of these. And as I mentioned before, we got septic, we got stormwater, we've got wells and the house itself, and then some driveways. I do think that it would be beneficial for the board to see a lot grading plan so we can see how this all comes together, because right now we've got theoretical septic systems, but those are going to have to be graded out and they'll have an impact, and the home will have an impact. And by the time we get done, these lots are going to be pretty much consumed by various amounts of grading. So I think it'd be beneficial for the board to see what that grading plan will look like, because it's going to be tight in some spots, I think.
Yeah, and I think one of your comments was to have basically a condition of approval that would require like site-specific grading plans at the time of construction. So I think if we just do it ahead of time as part of the plan set, and every site is graded out with a driveway and a building and a septic system, and it's just done all ahead of time, it'll just make it easier than having to come in kind of lot by lot and have to do it in the end. We might as well just do it right all up front.
Well, and I think it'd be easier for your home buyers too to see how that would lay out, because as we know, if we leave it up to the homeowners, there'll be a house from setback to setback, and then it'll be even tougher to fit all these things in there to the way that, you know, the wells and the septic system have to play out, because those are probably going to be items that aren't going to be able to be too much flexibility given the lot configuration and size.
Yeah, they're pretty well dictated by the plan, so there's not going to be a lot of allowable deviation from where we show wells and septics.
With the access easement, do you have any documentation yet on that as far as right title or interest to that wedge of land that you're gonna need for the access off Patricia?
We don't. It's all just been conversational up to this point, but it's at the point now where it needs to be documented and submitted. So we're gonna get the formal language all drafted up and make sure the board has that. I think that's an important piece the board would need to have just to show that, you know, we have the rights to do the project and tie into that area. So we'll make sure to get that done.
Dustin, how big are the homes planned to be? How many square feet?
Judging by the kind of the interest in the other homes that were built by this developer and through here, that they'll probably be ranches for the most part. A lot of them are, I want to say around 1,300 square feet or so. Some have garages, some don't. All depends on the price point and what people want to spend. Some people may want to add a garage later, or there may be some two-story homes, but I think it's predominantly going to be ranches, you know, in that 1,300 square foot range.
Anyone else from the board have a comment? Questions?
Yeah, I don't know where you're going as far as a motion with this, but obviously I think we've got some items here that under the preliminary requirements that we're either missing or we need more information on. I do think that the access easement where we don't have an agreement yet is a pretty big piece that we need to have as part of the preliminary plan. And I do think that maybe we want to get a little bit more feedback on the DEP side after following their pre-application to find out if they are going to be on board with the stormwater, because if they're not, then that could substantially change the plan as well. But it's your board, it's your decision what you guys want to do, but
I don't think we're up to a vote. Yeah, I don't think we're up to a motion yet, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But I don't think that in the sense of dragging it along here, Dustin, I would think that we probably could get it all done in the next meeting. I mean, I don't think we need two more meetings to accomplish it. I just don't think we have really a full enough application at this point to say we have a full application to go ahead with a motion to do it. That make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to us. And so for us, when we make our application to the DEP and they find it complete, and at that point we'll have all the information as well that we talked about tonight here. I'm happy to submit plans back into the town at that point that would be complete, what the DEP requires, and addressing these items we talked about tonight. My question would be if the board would consider any type of a final approval before we get our DEP permits, or would the board prefer to wait?
I guess about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we kind of fell on the side of waiting until we heard from the DEP so that the board had the final decision by giving that kind of final decision of the design to the DEP. So I would guess that that'd be the same way the board would go. If anybody on the board there want to chime in?
Yeah, Bob, you're pretty consistent. That's the way the board's been acting in the last few years. We do want to see the DEP approvals, maybe not the final, but at least the verification that they are in the approval writing of the approval. Just in the event, like we said, in case there is a change, substantial change, you know, we don't have to go back and amend it. I think, Dustin, what you can do is obviously we can get you through preliminary. And then hopefully we'll take you down the road far enough so that the final approval is more like a consent item where we're just kind of doing the final checkoffs. But I would like to think that in the preliminary approval state that we can get you to document that's 95% ready.
Yep.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I'm perfectly fine coming back for 2 more meetings, and we'll give you all the information that we talked about here tonight, and talk about preliminary approval at that stage. And then, like you said, final approval is mostly just, you know, we got our DEP permits, and here's the final maintenance agreement, and it's more of just a quick meeting for the final.
Correct.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And Dustin, on that piece there where you have with the abutter, obviously we're gonna need, you know, some form of, like you said, executed either easement or land swap or purchase or whatever you're doing. But I think at that corner too, it's very valuable for the board to see what the site distance is, because I think this road is shifted from where we looked at it last time. I think it actually helps you with the site distance on that corner. It's a safer location, but I think it is valuable to know what the site distance is and what the posted speed limit is up to there, because that is a little bit of a hairy turn right there.
It is, yeah. It's a complete S curve.
Anything else from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Was tonight an actual public hearing? Did we meet all the requirements? Because I think it was on Jim's memo that it said this was not going to be a public hearing tonight.
Town notified it as a public hearing.
Yeah.
The way we kind of do meetings in Raymond anyway, most of these are open for public participation. I would suggest that we probably, for the next one, because there's going to be some more information coming forward, that we just do another quick open public invite, and then we can shut it down from there. Typically, when we do subdivisions, you know, we typically want to do these at preliminary, but where this one's being tabled, we probably would extend the public hearing again, just as a protocol. We sort of, in fact, do that in Raymond anyway with all our meetings.
So I guess my question would be, so did tonight constitute like we met the project's obligations for a public hearing tonight, but we're gonna just continue to keep it open throughout the duration?
Yeah, where they didn't really deem it complete because they didn't vote on it for a preliminary, it's kind of open still. So even though there was no public participation this evening, I think the correct protocol would be to open up again for public comment at the next meeting. I don't know if we actually have to have a public notification because we have done that, but I would suggest that we open it up to have any public comment.
Yeah, we've met the requirements though for a public hearing. For this
Correct, but again, because you haven't formally voted on it, the public should have a say if there are any changes to
Right.
that.
And so the other thing though, just to switch topics here, Dustin, we still need a site walk, right, for the other project that you are presenting?
The other one, yes, it's not on the agenda tonight, but we do need to schedule a site walk for that other project off of Route 85. Yeah.
Do you plan on bringing that to the board at the next meeting?
Yeah, we've been working on that one pretty diligently, so we can talk. I'll talk to Jim. I mean, at this point, I don't know. I mean, we didn't submit anything today, which would be the deadline for the next meeting. We have made some changes, so I'm happy to bring it back as a sketch plan, but I'll talk to Jim about it, and if he decides that it'd be worthwhile to come back as a sketch, then we will. Otherwise, we're in the same process there where we're trying to, get going with DEP and work with the water district, and so.
Okay, so
We can still do the site walk.
right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dustin, it may be beneficial that, if you're doing a preliminary, you're gonna be lost a month anyway. It may be just beneficial just to put yourself back on as a sketch plan, and then we can schedule the site walk this evening as part of other business. And maybe we can knock it out before our next meeting. I don't know, when are you planning on coming back with this particular project?
With this particular project, I would say at this point, based on what we talked about tonight, I'm probably going to come back once we've submitted to DEP and they've kind of given us like our first round of comments so that we know we're like 90% the way there. That's when I would submit back to the board, I think. So you know.
I know DEP's unpredictable, so you may be a few months there, so.
Yeah, I mean, for preliminary plan, but maybe we try to come back in July. If we make the June submission deadline to come back and present in July for preliminary, and then hopefully by then we'll be at least a third the way through the DEP review process.
Okay,
So I'm
so,
just trying to figure out, Bob, if we even gonna have a meeting in June at this point, so. Maybe rather than a meeting in June, we could do the site walk for that other one if he's gonna submit, you know, in between. Wayne,
oh, that's Wayne. Okay. So what we do need to, we do need to advertise
muted.
the sidewalk though, right? So Mary needs 30 days.
Yeah, and I guess,
Wayne, mute, there you go.
I just muted him again.
yeah, I guess, I mean, and talking about it out loud here, there's, well, without getting into the details of it tonight, there's quite a bit that's changed with that project. I don't expect it to change again, but there was a lot of moving parts when we came in the first time. We've settled on a lot of the unknowns and we're focused in on just what the project's going to be now. So I do think it will be worthwhile for us to come in because we're not even coming off of Claire Lane at all anymore, and it's a whole different layout. So I think it would be worth coming in as a sketch plan and doing the site walk for the June meeting.
Okay, so I don't know if we have enough time now for the site.
If
Mary?
I would have to submit an ad by this Friday, and I'm not going to be in Friday because of this meeting, to have it run on the 21st is what we'd have to do. So I'd want to have a site walk, maybe the 29th would be earliest.
The
well,
20
I think we
Pushing
do I think we were talking about doing the site walk before the next, are we talking about doing it before the next meeting? Just before the meeting,
Well,
or are we
I'm
talking
trying to
Saturday?
figure out what it is you're talking about doing, guys.
You wanna do it before the meeting, or do you wanna do it on a Saturday?
well, don't we need 30 days, Mary? Well, how long?
I need to be able to get it in the paper, which there's a 1-week lag from submission to publication. Plus I need to do a butter notices. So that takes, we're talking at least 2 weeks to get this rolling ahead, 2 weeks ahead of whenever we want to have the site walk. So I need a 2-week lead time minimum.
That's why I was thinking, Bob, we could do it before the next planning board meeting
On the 9th.
on the 9th of June.
So
That's
we're having a planning board meeting on the 9th of June.
Well, if he submits a sketch plan, we can do the sketch plan and then we can do the site walk before.
So
We really don't have a submission deadline for a sketch plan.
And I have it all done. I can bring it to you tomorrow. I mean,
So Jim, you're proposing that we go do the site walk before the meeting?
Yes, it's just a sketch plan. I mean, you'll have the plan in hand because it will be delivered to you, so we can do the site walk before the sketch plan. You've seen one rendition of the land.
No, I'm not concerned about that. I'm just concerned about the timing.
Oh, no, I just thought that, we could do it at 6 and be back for the meeting at 7, or if
Oh,
everybody
wait.
can make it. If people can make that work, if they can't, then we'll have to do it another time. I was just, where it's daylight now, we can do these sometimes before the meeting.
My concern is also because members of the public might want to attend. For instance, Kathy Goslin has expressed interest in attending a site walk. And there may be other people who would want to as well, and they might not be able to make it at that time on a weekday. That's where my concern comes in.
How about June 5th? That's a Saturday. That gives Mary plenty of time.
Yeah, we should be able to do that.
And then we don't try to squeeze it in. If we do the sketch plan on the 9th, that's fine. If we don't, that's not a problem. We just push it to the next meeting. Or if we're not going to do it, we could do it instead of the planning board meeting. Where's Dustin? Dustin, you still there?
I'm still here. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, there's plenty of work for me to do just behind the scenes with Wayne and DEP and Portland Water District and everybody. And then we could have a discussion about the project and everything. So instead of doing this meeting like we're doing now on the 9th as a sketch plan, we could basically do a site walk and look at, and I'll bring the plan and we'll have it all staked out and you could look at our updated plan at that time.
So how about, for the board, how about 6:30, half hour earlier on the 9th instead of our meeting? Would that work for everybody? Ed?
Does,
Works for me.
Works for me.
Kevin? I'm sure it'll be okay with Mike. So Greg, did you answer? You okay?
yes, I'm okay with it.
All right. Dustin, does that work for you?
Yep, that'd be great. I appreciate everybody working with us on this.
Okay, Mary, so we'll do 6:30 on June 9th, and there'll be no planning board meeting on that night.
Okay, so site walk is 6:30 on June 9th.
Right. Jim, that work for you?
For me.
Okay,
Okay, I'll put it out.
perfect. Thanks, Dustin.
All right, thank you. I think we're all set on both projects, I guess.
You got a 2 for 1. There you go.
Yeah, I appreciate the multitasking.
You're gainfully employed, Dustin.
Jim, do we have any memo, planner communications?
I'm not aware of anything else. I know Alex has had some conversations, but I don't think anything was submitted, so I don't think we have anything else at this time. Alex?
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't have anything, anything that's close.
Okay,
I do think, let me see, when's the town meeting that's coming up? So those new ordinances will be, hopefully our new amendments will be getting kicked in here soon.
Kyle, I didn't actually catch you. Are you okay with with the sidewalk on the 9th?
Yep, that works for me.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody got anything else they want to talk about? Get a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
And it's still light out.
Yes. Thank you.